What is up, everybody? We're on day 155 of our Bible in a Year series, continuing on in the book of Job and continuing on with Elihu's conversation or speech, I guess you could say. If you don't remember from yesterday, Elihu came out and he heard Job and Job's friends going back and forth, and he decided to let them speak. He was younger, and hearing that Job's friends really did not have any response to him, he decided to speak up, and he has brought the fire so far. Um, that's going to continue today, and then we'll get through um, today's reading, and then for tomorrow we will see the Lord responds to Job. So you won't want to miss that either. But let's jump straight in and see what else Elihu had to say. Chapter 35. Then Elihu continued, saying, "Do you think it is just when you say, 'I am righteous before God'? For you ask, 'What does it profit you, and what benefit comes to me if I do not sin?' I will answer you, and your friends with you. Look at the heavens and see. Gaze at the clouds high above you. If you sin, how does it affect God? If you multiply your transgressions, what does it do to him? If you are righteous, what do you give him? Or what does he receive from your hand? Your wickedness affects a person like yourself, and your righteousness a son of man. People cry out because of severe oppression. They shout for help because of the power of the mighty. But no one asks, 'Where is God, my Maker, who provides us with songs in the night, who gives us more understanding than the animals of the earth, and makes us wiser than the birds of the sky?' There they cry out, but he does not answer, because of the pride of the evil people. Indeed, God does not listen to empty cries, and the Almighty does not take note of it. How much less when you complain, what do you not see? When you complain that you do not see him, that your case is before him, and you are waiting for him. But now, because God's anger does not punish, and he does not pay attention to transgression, Job opens his mouth in vain and multiplies words without knowledge." He is bringing it. Continues again. uh, I'm kind of picturing, and this is my visualizing this. Each chapter here, excuse me, each chapter here starting off with, then Elihu continued, then Elihu continued. So I'm kind of picturing he's giving this little speech, right? And then he stops and waits for Job to respond, and Job doesn't respond. And so then he gives another one. He stops and waits, and Job doesn't respond. So he gives another one. Maybe not, but that's just kind of how I'm reading this. Chapter 36. Then Elihu continued, saying, "Be patient with me a little longer, and I will inform you, for there is still more to be said on God's behalf. I will get my knowledge from a distant place and ascribe justice to my Maker. Indeed, my words are not false. One who has complete knowledge is with you. Yes, God is mighty, but he despises no one. He understands all things. He does not keep the wicked alive, but he gives justice to the oppressed. He does not withdraw his gaze from the righteous, but he seats them forever with enthroned kings, and they are exalted. If people are bound with chains and trapped by the cords of affliction, God tells them what they have done and how arrogantly they have transgressed. He opens their ears to correction. He tells them to repent from iniquity. If they listen and serve him, they will end their days in prosperity and their years in happiness. But if they do not listen, they will cross the river of death and die without knowledge. Those who have a godless heart harbor anger even when God binds them. They do not cry for help. They die in their youth. Their life ends among male cult prostitutes. God rescues the afflicted by their action or by their affliction. He instructs them by their torment. Indeed, he lured you from the jaws of distress to a spacious and unconfined place. Your table was spread with choice food, yet now you are obsessed with the judgment due the wicked. Judgment and justice have seized you. Be careful that no one lures you with riches. Do not let a large ransom lead you astray. Can your wealth or all your physical exertion keep you from distress? Do not long for the night when the nations will disappear from their places. Be careful that you do not turn to iniquity, for that is why you have been tested by affliction. Look, God shows himself exalted by his power. Who is a teacher like him? Who has appointed his way for him, and who has declared you have done wrong? Remember that you should praise his work, which people have sung about. All mankind has seen it. People have looked at it from a distance. Yes, God is exalted beyond our knowledge. The number of his years cannot be counted, for he makes water drops evaporate. They distill the rain into its mist, which the clouds pour out and shower abundantly on mankind. Interesting side note, this is actually describing you can see here, makes the water evaporate, they distill into rain and its mist, and which the clouds pour out and shower abundantly on mankind. This is describing like I want to say a water table, but I know that's not correct. Excuse me, a water cycle. The water's there, it evaporates and goes up in the sky, and then it gets heavy again and falls back down, and this, cycle that water goes through. And this was prior to, at least my understanding, this is what I've heard. This is prior to this actually being something that people generally knew. So this is written before this is common knowledge, and can be a piece of evidence that, there have been numerous times that the Bible contradicts common, like, scientific consensus or social consensus, I guess you can say. Every single time that has happened, and one of those has been proven right, the Bible has been right. Every single time. It's just true. Can't help it. Where were we? Verse 29. Can anyone understand how the clouds spread out, or how the thunder roars from God's pavilion? See how he spreads his lightning around him and covers the depths of the sea, for he judges the nations with these. He gives food in abundance, he covers his hands with lightning and commands it to hit its mark. The thunder declares his presence, the cattle also, the approaching storm. Chapter 37. My heart pounds at this and leaps from my chest. Just listen to his thunderous voice and the rumbling that comes from his mouth. He lets it loose beneath the entire sky, his lightning to the ends of the earth. Then there comes a roaring sound. God thunders with his majestic voice. He does not restrain the lightning when his rumbling voice is heard. God thunders wondrously with his voice. He does great things that we cannot comprehend. For he says to the snow, fall on the earth, and the torrential rains, his mighty torrential rains, serve as his sign to all mankind, so that all men may know his work. The wild animals enter their lairs and stay in their dens. The windstorm comes from its chamber, and the cold from driving north winds. Ice is formed by the breath of God, and watery expanses are frozen. He saturates clouds with moisture. He scatters his lightning through them. They swirl about, turning round and round at his direction, accomplishing everything he commands them over the surface of the inhabited world. He causes this to happen for punishment for his land and for his faithful love. Listen to this, Job. Stop and consider God's wonders. Do you know how God directs his clouds or makes their lightning flash? Do you understand how the clouds float, those wonderful works of him who has perfect knowledge? You whose clothes get hot when the south wind brings calm to the land, can you help God spread out the skies as hard as a cast metal mirror? Teach us what we should say to him. We cannot prepare our case because of our darkness. Should he be told that I want to speak? Can a man speak when he is confused? Now no one can even look at the sun. After a wind has swept through and cleared the sky, out of the north he comes, shrouded in a golden glow. Awesome majesty surrounds him. The Almighty, we cannot reach him. He is exalted in power. He will not violate justice or abundant righteousness. Therefore, men fear him. He does not look favorably on any who are wise in heart. Did not mince words. He did not hold back. That is for sure. And I think it's good. I think it's, we talked about a little bit yesterday with the idea that he was younger, and so he was kind of holding back at first. And I do think that there is something to be said about um, experience is a good teacher, right? And you can have a lot of knowledge and wisdom because of experience and just life that you've lived. But that's not the only teacher. And just because you have a lot of experience doesn't necessarily mean that you're right. New situations come along, new things come along, and you may not have the best perspective to look at and deal with those things. I think that older people need to be more quick to listen, at least hear out younger people. I also think younger people need to be more quick to listen and hear out older people. I think this goes both ways. But this was an interesting finish to this conversation. And now we're going to get into our questions. Question 1. Elihu in chapter 35 questions whether Job's righteousness benefits God. How does this challenge us to consider the purpose of our obedience, not as a transaction, but as a response to God's inherent worth? I think this is a very good point that a lot of people, Christian and non-Christian, do not fully comprehend. You living a life that is upright is not necessarily benefiting God. It benefits you. Now it reflects God's goodness, reflects God's holiness. It can be a way of worshiping God, but that's not something like a transactional thing where you're giving him something to get something back. You're doing things to worship him because he deserves it. Like, you don't deserve to get something back because you live a righteous life or a holy life or an upright life. You do that because he has said, and he deserves obedience. He deserves all of you. This is not a transactional thing. God is not a slot machine that you pull and you wait to see what you're going to get out of it. There's a lot of Christians, I think, that treat their beliefs that way, and that is bad, really, really bad. Question 2. Elihu's vivid portrayal, not video portrayal. Elihu's vivid portrayal of God's power over creation in chapters 36 and 37. How might this awe-inspiring depiction prompt us to reflect on the connection between God's sovereignty and our trust in his purposes during trials? This is, again, I think this is something that a lot of people don't really have a great grasp on. They would say, yes, God has control over the weather and the seasons and everything. Excuse me, I'm tired. But they would not say they don't act in a way that shows that they really believe that. God has control over everything in this world. Um, I remember hearing a story, and I don't know who this was, and I don't know even 100% if it's a real story, but there was this somebody that was going to get burned at the stake for being a Christian, and they tied him up, and as they were getting ready to do this, he was preaching the gospel. My camera just froze. As they were getting ready to do this, he was preaching the gospel to them. They go to light the wood underneath him on fire, and this wind blows in and puts it out. And he's still continuing to just present the gospel. They go to do it again. It catches fire, the wind blows it out, and he's still just continuing. And he just kept doing it. Finally, yes, they did get it lit, and he did end up dying. He was martyred for his faith, but not before the wind kept putting this fire out so that a gospel presentation could be made. Now, I'm not 100% sure who it was or all the details of the story, anything like that. If you do know, drop in the comments. I'd be interested to see and maybe look a little more into that, the validity of the story and all that. But even if that story itself is not true, it is showing an element that is true, that God has sovereignty over all this stuff. And we can, if we really understand that God has control over everything. The ocean stops where it does because God told it to. The stars stay in the sky because God told them to. Like, really grasp that and think about that in comparison to the struggles and issues that we're dealing with in our own lives. Yes, those struggles are real. Those issues are real. The temptations are real. The things that we have to live through and persevere through are real, and they're hard. But God has the power God has is absolutely just overwhelming, mind-blowing to think about. And I think we would act differently if we really understood that, if we really took that to heart. We haven't got to them yet, but Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, right when they're about to be thrown into the fiery furnace, they say, "We know our God can save us, but even if He doesn't, we'll worship Him." That shows a couple elements here. That first of all, they understand that no matter what situation they're in, God can save them. They don't know how it's going to be. They don't know if God's going to show up in the fire and keep them from being burnt. They don't know if God's going to drop in the middle of the situation and just like, John Wick, the guys that are holding them, and the king and all that. We don't know, or they don't know if God's just going to let them die, if that's just going to happen. They have no idea. They know God can do any of those things. They have no idea what He's actually going to do. But they trust Him either way. Regardless of the outcome, they trust Him and they praise Him, not knowing what's going to happen. That is the kind of faith that you can have if you really get this ingrained. Question 3. Elihu urges Job to submit to God's mysterious justice. How does this invitation encourage us to wrestle with the tension between questioning God's ways and surrendering to His infinite wisdom in our suffering? This is another one I feel like is kind of a little bit of a false dichotomy. Having questions does not necessarily mean that you're not surrendering to God. You can have questions. You can question things. You can question situation. You can question process that He's using or how He's working through this stuff. All of that you can question. That's fine. It's not bad to question at all. As long as you're doing it in a right way. If that's not all like you're hyper focused on, you can question the situation that you're in, and it doesn't mean that you're not trusting God. It doesn't mean that you're not surrendering to God. There's a balance there. Your focus should be more on God and what He can do and what He deserves, despite what happens and what He does, not on the situation. Yeah, so that is it for today. Appreciate everyone watching, listening up to this point. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I enjoy comments, reading them, interacting as much as I can. If this has been a blessing to you, consider sharing it with other people. Word of mouth is the best way that podcast spreads. So if you share it with somebody else, then they can possibly get something from this too. Maybe it'll bless them as well, help them stick with a daily Bible reading plan. That's the whole purpose that we're doing this Bible in a Year series. Is to help people with keep it in my mic with sticking with the Bible reading plan. Tomorrow we'll be back in Job, but we're going to be getting into specifically God responding to Job. It's phenomenal, and I believe this is what really ties my thoughts on what the main purpose of the book of Job is, which is that no one is good but God. Even Job, who was described as righteous at the beginning by God, no one is truly righteous but God. No one is truly good but God. That's what we're going to see. So, don't forget to come back. It's going to be good. Really enjoy how Job is like kind of tied together at the end. Yeah, it's good stuff. Thanks. God bless.